What's up, everybody? Welcome to the View from Jamestown podcast edition. This is episode 63. This is the October 2021 episode, and we are sitting down this morning with TCC President Robb Roach, VP of Sales and Marketing AJ Petrarca, Inside Sales Manager Nicole Greenberg, and Latin American Operations Manager Javier Fernandez.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Glad I remembered all your titles as I'm going around that
That was
circle.
impressive.
I'm waiting to forget somebody's.
Very impressive.
How you guys doing today?
Very good.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yep.
Good to hear. Good to hear. We're freshly back from AFPM. First big conference here in the last year and a half, I guess. It was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say it was a success. It's a very successful conference. People were happy to be there. That was good. That was good to see.
For sure.
People were upbeat.
Yeah, maybe 25% of the attendance or so, but I think the people that were there were happy to be there.
I think, yeah, I agree with Javi. Attendance was low, but I think people were in good spirits. I mean, a lot of people that I met with, it was their first time traveling, their first in-person meetings for many of them. And we had a party. We had a great party. We had a golf outing Saturday. We had a party on Sunday night at the Briscoe Art Museum. Normally have, say 400 attendees. We had about 100, so that'll give you an idea what overall the attendance was, maybe even lower than that.
Yep.
I'd say it was down to about 25% of norm. But yeah, and we traveled and we exposed ourselves to COVID, everybody was shaking hands and hugging and no masks, and so far so good.
Right.
Knock on wood,
And it was Nicole's inaugural AFPM.
It was. And I mean, it was awesome. I have to say, first time in Texas, first time at AFPM. So looking forward to March, and, hopefully the attendance rate is even higher then.
Yeah, we're only 5 months away from the next one.
I know. Normally you get a little bit of a break from planning, but you're not going to have that luxury this year.
So true.
But yeah, it was nice to be back there. Nice to see everybody. A lot of good meetings, good meals. Cocktail party was good. I think good attendance from Latin America as well, which was nice to see.
It was more of a regional. Nobody from Brazil came, but it was more of a regional. A lot of people from Mexico came. Colombia showed up, so that was interesting.
It was interesting. A lot of Latin American attendees. That's true. A lot came from Mexico and elsewhere.
Yeah. Not from Brazil though, because of the quarantine, or Chile. Not from Chile.
Right.
Because of the quarantine coming back, they make it very difficult.
Maybe we're just super exposed to them because Hob knows everybody in Latin America.
Everybody.
Latin America, South America,
Everybody.
Central America. I mean, he knows everybody.
Yep.
So.
And a handful of European contacts. Obviously not the norm, but there were some.
Some Canadians.
Turkey.
Some Canadians.
Yeah, they came down from Canada, and we had a few from Turkey.
Yep.
So definitely not international, but more national.
Yeah, it was
sure.
good to be back. Good to obviously start looking ahead to 2022 as well. I know we'll talk about trade shows in a little bit, but it was nice to be back there. Yeah, it's October. I guess it's officially Q4. So starting to plan for the end of the year. Obviously, TCC's company year doesn't fall in December, but a lot of companies are starting to plan for that December time frame. So it's a interesting time for a lot of companies here.
Yeah, no doubt. AFPM reported very low finished goods inventory, so I don't see, necessarily a demand slowdown coming. A lot of interesting reports out this week about how supply chain is an issue, but the ravenous buying of Americans is also part of the problem. I mean, most of them are at my doorstep. Amazon boxes every day coming from my wife buying from no, but I mean, seriously, there's a lot of people that I just gotta, average Joes, let's say, that aren't in our position, haven't been seeing this, are asking me about it and say, well, they're doing things, they're 24 hours at Los Angeles, and they're trying to make changes, and somebody quoted at AFPM, that's the head of the snake. So you can 24-hour the port, you can do whatever you can at the port, but it's a supply chain issue across the country and across the world. So it's not something that you can fix one port and fix the whole situation. It helps, but we got to still, you can't, we need more drivers. You can't put more railroad tracks down. There's only so much capacity there. So it's going to take some time to catch up, for sure. And it's not happening yet.
Yeah. One interesting thing on the logistics front, I think AJ had sent around this week, was that we actually saw, for the first time since COVID started, a decrease in some of the ocean freight lanes. So that was some interesting piece of news that came up in the last week or two.
Yeah, we've seen a pretty dramatic decrease in, specifically China to the U.S. They're attributing that to most of the Christmas stuff is shipped, and a lot of demand or a lot of production is off in China just due to their issues with coal supply or lack thereof. So I think with decreased production, it's freeing up some container capacity. I mean, they're still high historically speaking, but lower than what they have been.
Yeah, I think that was the kind of mood with the kind of having Christmas season past us, as well as obviously what we're talking about with all these China plants shutting down, just lower demand in general. So it was a pretty significant, decrease, I think, in something like 30 to 50% just in a 1 or 2 week time frame. So it was interesting to see that.
I had heard yesterday that, the energy issue is a lot to do with their relationship with Australia, where there's some high quality coal that comes, that the lower quality coal in China is blend with the higher quality coal from Australia, and of course it feeds power plants. So different regions are being affected differently depending on what they have for coal and their energy sources. And so some provinces are having extreme shortages of energy, where others are relatively normal. So it's not carte blanche across China.
Yeah, and obviously the energy thing brings up another interesting topic, obviously a big topic of discussion for the past couple weeks, and certainly at AFPM was the natural gas situation in Europe. Obviously pricing continued to skyrocket. I saw one comparison this morning that compared the current prices of natural gas in Europe to $200 per barrel oil. So I thought that was an interesting comparison just to show the severity of the situation, but something that'll play a big role for the next probably 3 to 6 months, both with obviously heating your homes, but as well as production and chemical plants and everything like that.
Yeah, I was on the line with German colleagues yesterday. Obviously, their contention is Putin's playing games here, and that also want to mention that at AFPM, we're also not out of the woods here in the USA. We're also at a very low point in our inventories of natural gas, and one of the very concerning topics at AFPM was the fact that we could see energy shortages, not only in EU but in the USA this coming winter, especially if it's a very cold winter. So, and then interestingly, talking to colleagues in the EU, they're going to heavier feeds. So, with gas being so expensive, they're feeding more, heavy into the refineries, and you're seeing more things like naphtha and C4s and things like that. So it's good news, bad news. There's a lot more raw material for petrochemical. You probably see something like that happen if natural gas prices continue to go up in the USA and availability becomes suspect. So yeah, it was probably the biggest industry topic at AFPM is $300 ammonia with $600 surcharge on top, so double the value of ammonia as a surcharge. People are turning off plants just because they're not losing money. Right. So again, that's going to be severe impacts in EU and for the U.S. because we do depend on Europe for a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Javi, you're doing a lot of sourcing out of Europe as well, so I'm sure that's been a big conversation with producers trying to push across price increases and thinking about
Q4. Increases have to withdraw a lot of offers due to those announcements. So it has affect a lot of the offers that because of ammonia. So it's definitely a big factor.
Yeah, it seems like it will be for the next coming months. So good topic to be informed about and keeping an eye on for sure.
Absolutely.
Seems like something that came up pretty quick too. I mean, it hasn't been something we've been talking about for a long time. Really, just in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, it's all of a sudden been this big discussion point.
Yeah, it's another repeat of 2009. We saw the energy crunch after the recession, and I think we're going to continue to see the energy costs rise here in the coming months. So and similar, consistently similar to what happened after 2009, and it lasted 2 years really. So
yeah. And amongst all that, obviously, we're keeping a close eye on China as well. I know we've talked about the various China topics for the last couple months. The Olympics coming up in February, seeing a lot of plant shutdowns continuing. AJ, I know you're dealing with a lot of products coming out of China and talking with our China office consistently. Obviously, the freight rates coming down is a positive piece, but it seems like the general material availability is going to continue to be pretty tight and pretty expensive.
Yeah, the freight rates help some, but with how tight everything is really across the board, phosphates, bromine, everything. I can't really think of much from China that's not snug right now. Even as like fertilizers, they're not exporting, historical volumes right now, just trying to keep as much as they can in the country so they can, satisfy their own needs. And it's that drives pricing everywhere, so prices are way up in the U.S. because of that. And, it doesn't look like that's going to change, I don't think, before the Olympics.
Yep. Yeah, so I think putting all that together, kind of starting to talk about 2022, I think that was a popular topic at AFPM, was trying to figure out how long all this is going to go on for, and if there's a potential end in sight. I think the overwhelming feeling is that a lot of this will go on well on probably the first half of 2022, and just a matter of it's going to continue throughout the year or not.
Yeah, with the ongoing differences, you could say, with Australia, they're not getting the coal they need, and that is having an impact on different regions. So if that region is, say, a consumer of commodities to make chemical products, there's other regions that aren't having energy issues, and they're seeing length in markets, for example, in 2EH and butanol, very long in the Shandong province, because they're not having any energy issues, yet the ester producers are in different provinces. Those that aren't integrated into phthalic anhydride and don't have the excess steam are being cut back on energy. So therefore, the demand isn't there for things like 2EH and butanol and other oxoalcohols. Yep. So that is an example of where you're starting to see some length and price erosion in China. And I think you'll start to see more of that, because China, in preparation for the Olympics, is cutting back on energy, but also cutting back on all forms of pollution. So they're cutting back on all the chemical producers, especially those that break the rules.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting to keep an eye on all these trends coming in. Definitely through the end of this year and into next year, and see how long all this goes on for in the coming 2 quarters. Quick note on the trade and tariff piece. I know we've been talking about it for a little while. We finally have our 3-part mini-series with Diaz Trade Law live. If you scroll back, it'll be the last 3 episodes that are in your podcast feed, whether it's on the podcast app or in YouTube. But thank you to Diaz Trade Law for coming on those. I think there's a great couple episodes. We did an import-specific one, an export-specific one, and then one talking about duties and trade and tariff. So some good info in there. I think whether you're a brand new importer or exporter or have been doing it for a while, there's something to learn in those episodes. So it's great that we're able to have them on and do those. I know between some of the travel you've had coming up and then the AFPM, obviously you spent a lot of time with both your Latin American customers as well as suppliers. But curious to get your thoughts on how that's all going.
The region is it's upbeat. Mexico is not growing as it's supposed to grow. It's growing at 3.7%. It's still low, but the consumers are buying. They are not that connected like the U.S. The demand is not as high as the U.S., but the automotive is still big, and it's bigger. The Mexican market is growing bigger. That's as bigger than the Brazilian market. So things are very good overall.
And obviously, still I'm seeing a lot of unique import options coming in, supply options between the China tariffs and things like that. There's been a lot of different change in the supply avenues there.
Yeah. China is not an option for some cases that it was a natural fit due to the short-term lead times that was 25, 30 days. Yeah. Now they have to see other options, just like India, Turkey, Taiwan. So it's happening.
How about supply coming up from the various places that we're buying from? Has that been okay? The logistics been okay? Or there's still
no, some shipments haven't been appearing. There have been changes on the shipping lines, a lot of rollovers. Yep. We have been seeing a lot of delays. But just like everywhere, we have been hitting a lot of logistics issues. But we're getting our product. Our customers are getting supplied. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Price updates and trends. I know we're kind of in the middle of October. Had some increases, some decreases, depending on the products you're talking about. Coming back to October, looking ahead to November, seems like things are trending upwards. So we'll see how things settle out coming into November 1. I don't know if you guys have any early estimates or predictions on what's to come here for November.
Increases is my guess.
Yeah.
Well, we're already at a lot of products at historic highs.
Yep.
And further increases are expected with the gas shortages, potential gas pricing now, but potential gas shortages could really, send things into a real spot crazy market with high prices. So I'd agree with AJ there.
Yeah, it seems like everything's trending upwards. Crude had a large increase from this time in September. So it'll certainly be interesting to see.
Yeah, with about 20%, 70 to 84, somewhere in there. So that's a significant increase, and that hasn't really, trickled down yet in the BTXs and the propylenes and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, and of course we're coming into the winter season, so things like propane prices should trend higher. Natural gas prices have certainly been higher, up a low $5 range here in the U.S. And I don't even know what they're at in Europe, $7-8 euros per MMBTU, and possibly going higher. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on. I would not wait, And then of course you've got the first quarter. You got a lot of things happening within China. The Olympics and typical. Their outages for their New Year and things like that. So yeah, I think things will remain snug and prices firm.
And it's a unique mix. You got, like we said, December coming up, the end of the year coming up. Maybe companies want to try to pare down inventories, but it's a good time to be buying, so you have cheaper raw materials on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the stock market is just it's screaming. People are buying, people have money. You wonder if this money will be worth anything in the future. That's sort of where my head's at right now. There's a lot of it around, and people are spending it, and which is good, But when does that end, and will it be a cliff? Is what a lot of people are wondering.
Yeah.
We're a world economy now. Maybe that's what it is. We're just really seeing that really take shape,
yeah, very much so. Very much so.
It's a lot to speculate on.
Obviously, coming into the cold months, or really kind of right in the cold months for some of our, both the seasonal demand as well as some of our new products that are worth talking about. We'll let Nicole handle some of our featured products for this month.
So we've got the packaged plasticizer line, and so that demand has been strong and solid. Prices have been increasing, and we expect to see that for the foreseeable future. So everyone who kind of thought towards the end of the year prices would, start to come down is kind of like, oh no, I should have placed orders, back when, before they started to see all these increases, because that just hasn't been the case. So, continue to plan, continue to forecast, because obviously you need to be supplied. And, we're still seeing tight supply on empty tote and drum volumes. So, we're obviously planning accordingly and keeping enough in our pipeline for what we have to do. But I've heard across the board a lot of people have been running into issues with securing supply, even going forward for the next few months. So definitely something to keep an eye out for.
It's been a great product line, both people that are using LTL material as well as filling a gap between bulk deliveries or things like that. So glad to have all that material in stock.
Exactly.
Pretty long list of products too. I mean, DINP, DOTP, DPHP,
Yep.
ESO, DINA. A core part of our plasticizer line now available and packaged.
Yeah, DIDP,
DOP.
DOS, DOP. I mean,
Yeah.
and if somebody has demand and wants us to package it, we'll package it. But yeah, it's been a huge compliment, again, filling that gap in orders or LTL, further diversification of the company. And Nicole's been doing a great job, and it's been a success in this supply chain crunch.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And obviously our seasonal products still pushing methanol pretty hard, kind of right in the middle of the demand season for the methanol coming up for the winter, as well as starting to think about dicyandiamide and other fertilizer additives for the spring. People placing orders now for springtime demand.
Mm-hmm.
That Dicey's been the perfect example of what can happen with prices with everything going on in China. Obviously, some significant increases come in the past few weeks and months from that dicey specifically.
Yeah, there's been some significant increases, but it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. We've been warning folks about this for quite some time.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Yeah, glycol too. For antifreeze is starting to really pick up. You're also seeing the amines. You're seeing more potential fracking and downhole stuff, especially with these energy values rising. So things like TEA, DEA that go into mining or not mining, fracking and downhole, and of course glycols go into downhole to keep the product flowing. So it's going to be interesting with these higher energy values to see fracking pick up again, and the demand for the products that go into that should certainly. I mean, there's been a bit of a the Biden administration's looked down a bit on fracking, but at $83 a barrel, I think people are going to be trying to get energy any way they can.
Yep.
I saw a graph this week of oil rig counts like hockey stick growth right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't seen that, but it was just an assumption. I guess it's a safe assumption. It's people are going to really do what they can to get whatever they can. When inventories are this low, it's so the demand on that. It's been interesting. Again, before AFPM, we started to hear rumblings of people, things that we've sold in the past that are coming back up again. So
hopefully our friends in Mexico come back.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. That would be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they have an opportunity here.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then events, shows, and conferences. Obviously, we've recently been at the Chemicals America show out in Charleston, which was a good event. Just coming back this week from the AFPM. Also, obviously, relatively minimal or lesser attendance, which I think we all expected. But I think for the people that were there, the meetings that were able to go on, the cocktail parties that at least TCC held, I think it was a great attendance. And I think you got to start somewhere to get back out and into traveling. So glad that we were all there and able to meet with everybody that we were able to. Coming up the last half of the year, obviously the EPCA and the APLA, typically this time of year, I believe both of those are virtual this year, not happening in person. And I think the only other one we're booked for the end of the year is the Plastics Compounders Conference out in December. Always a nice event. Hopefully that's similar to the Chemicals America, where it's a nice surprise, and the number of people that attend usually pretty well attended. So hopefully we'll see some people down there.
Looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. And then really just starting to plan 2022 shows. So I think maybe on the next episode we'll have a good list of our 2022 plans. Obviously some big shows. I think the coating shows next year, AFPN again, obviously the Chemicals America shows. Hopefully get back out to EPCA and APLA in person.
Hopefully
coming up next year. So keep an eye out for those.
For sure.
I think that kind of wraps things up. Anything else?
I don't think so. We didn't really mention COVID a lot, but I think COVID will continue to be an issue. You're seeing cases surge again in Great Britain, where they're heavily vaccinated. You're seeing lockdowns in Russia. So we're not through this storm yet. So I just want to let people know they should still be careful and be cognizant of their surroundings. But I think that we've learned from our trip to Texas that maybe the masks aren't totally necessary all the time, especially if you do keep social distancing in place. People should be able to get out, exercise, spend time with each other as long as they're safe. I think personally for me, I think the mental part of COVID has been very hard for all of us, and I think that's why AFPM was just so great. It's just so great to finally see our friends, to get together, feel normal. It was really cool to feel normal, and you'd almost forget about COVID at times because it's had such an impact on all of us. But the war's not over, and we still have to be careful. But I will say, hey, I was on planes. I felt safe. I don't think travel's an issue. I don't. And they're looking at a very heavy travel season.
Yep.
Big demand of things. Almost like a celebratory attitude. That's why probably people are buying and traveling and things.
I think
so
planes are cleaner than they've ever been.
Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
I mean
they're
unbelievable.
They're so clean that unbelievable.
I'd eat off the floor of a bathroom in a plane. No,
That's too much.
but I was just shocked. I mean, how clean they were, and everybody was. There was nobody yelling about masking, but I will say that the masks hurt. my ears, if you do travel, figure something out to have a comfortable mask, because you lose the efficacy if you're moving it around all the time or taking it off. I mean, so plan to wear a mask, I think, for the long term and while traveling. But boy, it was nice to see everybody at AFPM and get together. And I look forward to seeing our international friends here in the future. That's going to be the next new exciting thing. So
yeah, sometime hopefully very soon. Hopefully very soon.
Hopefully in March.
Hopefully in March.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess that'll be the next big event. Figure we should give a shout out to some of our own staff too. I know we have a couple new furry family members in the TCC family.
It's like a tidal wave of puppies.
Very much so. Very much so. Carrie McNamara and Dana Tudor Hanks, I guess, got new puppies this month, as well as our own Kettlebottom's George Manchester over here. So some new puppies.
What's Dana's dog's name? Do y'all know?
I don't know that.
Quinn.
Quinn, that's
Quinn.
right, Quinn. So we got
Quinn.
George has B, and Kerry's got Gigi, and Quinn. So yeah, maybe we could put some pictures up here, George, because everybody loves puppies, including me.
What kind of puppy did Carrie get? Do you know?
She got a mini Australian Shepherd, mini
Okay.
Aussie, I believe. So
Nice.
really, really, really cute dog.
Yeah.
Little fur ball.
Nice.
Love
Nice.
it.
And then we're looking forward to a good luncheon after this podcast, courtesy of one of our supplier
One of our
contacts from
suppliers is
AFPM.
from China. She resides here well, she lives in Massachusetts, and she works here in Rhode Island, and she recommended Chengdu Taste, and she said you better be ready for spicy.
Yep.
So we're going to have a pilgrimage to Chengdu Taste up in Providence after this, the four of us, and
All the way to Providence.
all the way, which is a long way if you're a Rhode Islander. You have to pack a lunch to go over the bridge and drive 45 minutes away. But yeah, and when you have somebody who is from China and has that knowledge, and they make a recommendation, we go.
Yes, sir.
Well, and I also think it's noteworthy to mention that the shrimp paisano lived up to every
Shrimp paisano?
expectation
Oh,
that
the
you
best.
guys set. I was nervous at first.
The best.
That my expectations would be higher than the actual.
What happened that first night?
Oh,
Mullins?
Corey Mullins happened. I mean,
She ordered clams in San Antonio.
linguine and clams and red sauce, and of course I'm like, well, the shrimp paisano. Mullins, he's like, oh, you go, girl, get what you want, and I'm like, okay. I never listen to a non-foodie about food. I'm
If
just
it's
kidding.
bourbon,
Yeah,
you
if
can
it's
listen.
bourbon,
True.
right? No, just kidding, Mullins. But yeah, definitely worth the wait, and that taste was phenomenal. So.
Glad I lived up to your expectations.
Oh, it did. It
You
did.
set a high
believe
bar,
me.
so.
Yeah, well, you guys did. I was like, going into it, it
Luckily, we went twice, because that first night you got red sauce and
Well-
clams with one shrimp on the side.
Well, that was another Mullins suggestion. It's almost like that was my initiation. He's like, oh yeah, you can add a shrimp paisano to it. I didn't know it was one shrimp. I'm like, they bring the plate over. Rob's like, you got one shrimp paisano. I'm like, I thought it was on top or whatever. So hey, you live and you learn. I'll never make that mistake.
Did you get the
again.
full shrimp paisano the second night?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and
All right.
that was delicious. Absolutely delicious.
And then, Benny, you contemplated going a third. I think
I tried.
You were voting for a third.
I was scheming. It didn't
You
happen
were.
though. Next year.
Make sure you book our reservation now because of this podcast.
Oh, I already did.
Oh, for March?
I
Okay, good.
already teed that all
because
up.
of this
We're solid.
podcast, it's going to be booked up.
Yep. Awesome. Well, good episode. I think good conversation. Lots going on. Lots to continue talking about. Obviously, we'll have a next update here in a couple weeks. But again, thank you all for listening. Thank you for all the feedback we had recently at the AFPM. Met a lot of people that
Yes.
were listeners, which was
People
cool to
were
see.
happy at the
So,
cocktail party, complimenting Benny
yeah.
Yep.
and the marketing efforts for everybody. So that was pleasant.
Well, we couldn't do the podcast if it wasn't for you four. So I think good team effort, and glad that people are getting out there listening. Glad that it's been
we got a
valuable.
great leader.
So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we gotta be careful what we said because people do listen.
But yeah, thank you again for listening. Thank you guys for sitting down this morning. And obviously, we will have the next episode in the next couple weeks.
Thank
so
you, Benny.
thanks again.
Thanks, Benny.
Bye.